Next up is the resolution in support of peace in the Holy Land and the city of Charleston, requested by Councilmember Ross Appel. And I know you have read it, and Councilmember Appel read a earlier version of it to us last month. But for the record, would y'all mind if I ask Councilmember Appel to read the current version of the resolution into the record?
Thank you, Mayor Tecklenburg, and I'd be honored to. And I appreciate all the support from the community coming out here this evening on a perfectly serviceable Tuesday evening to support this resolution in strong support of peace and in harsh condemnation of anti-Semitism and all forms of racism and prejudice. It's been a tough few years in the city of Charleston and around the world. Conflicts around national, political, racial, and religious lines seem to be running hotter than ever. And that's a shame. It cannot ever become accepted as the new normal. Last month, as bombs and rockets were falling in Israel, I felt compelled to bring forward a resolution calling for peace and tolerance, both here in Charleston and in Israel. Israel is a special place for me and many in this community, both Jew and non-Jew alike. It hurts our community when our Israeli friends and their neighbors suffer. It also hurts to see the rise of anti-Semitism here and all other forms of prejudice and racism and hate against anyone. So without further ado, I'm humbled and honored to read my proclamation, and I appreciate all the support from my fellow council members on this issue. So without further ado, whereas the city of Charleston, known to the world as the Holy City, has for centuries treasured religious tolerance. Whereas the Charleston Jewish community traces its roots to 1695 and has played an important role in Charleston's history. Whereas both Jews and non-Jews in Charleston have a deep and abiding connection to the state of Israel. Whereas the United States and Israel have long been close allies with strong bipartisan support. Whereas the city of Charleston unequivocally rejects anti-Semitism and all other forms of racism, religious intolerance, and other prejudices, both here in Charleston and around the world. Whereas the city of Charleston expresses strong support for Israel and its Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Druze, and other citizens. Whereas the city of Charleston also supports a peaceful future for the Palestinian people living in the West Bank and Gaza. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by the City Council of Charleston and the City Council assembled, that the Holy City, Charleston, supports peace in the Holy Land and here in Charleston as well. Thank you.
Any discussion or comments?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Oh yeah, I'll move to adopt this resolution. Thank you.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Let the record show it was unanimous. Thank you, council member.
Mr. Mayor,
And thank you all for being here this evening in support. Yes, sir. Councilmember Shade.
I just want to congratulate Councilmember Appel for putting this together. And I just think it's worthy to note that racism and anti-Semitism, it impacts all of us throughout our community. And as Councilmember Appel said, that Israel is a special place for all of us. We need to be very strong in support of this resolution, not just by our words tonight, but also by our actions. That's critically important for all of us today. And I hope this sends a very strong message to the community that we not only stand behind Israel, but we stand behind any acts of violence because of someone's sexual preference, because of their race, because of their religious beliefs. This is an important declaration from the city as to our stance that we would not tolerate this kind of violence and this kind of racism or intolerance of any sort in our community. So thank you all for support of this, and thank you for bringing this forward tonight, Councilmember Appel.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Waring.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Appel, I want to thank you for stepping up. That's something easy to say someone else should do, or suffer in silence, sometimes, as we all do and have done. sometimes you wonder how can you have effect on a world stage, but it starts with one effort, just like what you did. You know, the sentiments were so strong, as you know, last meeting, that it would have been added to the floor and passed last month. It was much more effective for you to have it on the agenda, as you and the mayor have done, have it out there for the better part of 2-3 weeks for citizens in the region who go online, read out paraphernalia to say that Charleston doesn't stay quiet on the world stage. So I thank you for doing that, because it means it matters. What you said matters. I know you said you threw it together quickly the last time, but those words were profound. So thank you for what you do and look forward to serving with you as we go forward. Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, thank you again, Councilmember Rappel. And I had the honor earlier this year to meet the new ambassador from Israel to the United States. And I will personally send a copy of this resolution to him and let him know of our support.